Morning, friends. As you can see, I did fertilize this morning with fish emulsion. So the whole farm got fertilization except for the sunflowers. Sunflowers kind of want crappy soil, not a lot of fertilization. So I didn't touch those, but everything else got fertilized. Things are looking pretty good, but there's lots of holes, lots of places that things died, small seedlings died, or stuff didn't come up. So big package worth of seeds here. Today is seed sowing day in as many of the holes as possible. The bed that we flipped the other day, I'm only going to sow a quarter of that, 10 feet, with some sunflowers because that whole bed is going to be sunflowers, but it's going to be successions. So I'll do the first 10 feet. And I've got lots of sunflower options here. Basically what I have out here is zinnias and sunflowers. Because everything else is in the ground at this point. So the sunflower varieties that we've got, I've got Pro-Cut Lemon, Chianti, which I think I'll wait on. That's more of a fall color, and I like to have those later in the season. And then Pro-Cut Gold Light. And I also have these teddy bear sunflowers. So these are not as big as some of these other Pro-Cut sunflowers, but they can grow up to 4 feet tall. All I really need is a 24-inch stem. That's it. So I don't have to have super gigantic ones, but they tend to get pretty big. So that's for sunflowers. I'm going to pop those everywhere that I see a little space. Like there's a spot right here in this straw flower bed. It's only about 3 feet in length that I have put multiple things in, and nothing seems to want to grow here. So I'm just going to pop in some direct seeded sunflowers and we'll see what happens. And I'm going to cover it with straw if I still have straw out here. Otherwise I'll have to bring it out tomorrow. But I am going to start mulching the soil because we are moving into, it's a gorgeous day today. It is like 78 degrees and breezy. It's beautiful. We are below average temperatures still at this time of year, but the reports are saying that probably by mid-July we'll be hitting our upper 90s, low 100s like we usually do. So there's been a very cold ocean current off of the coast, and we are close enough to the coast that we still get some of that cooling effect. Only about 10 miles east, they no longer get the cooling effect. So we're lucky here. But those heat temperatures are going to start coming in, and that means that even though everything's getting watered every day with the irrigation, being able to keep the moisture in the soil is really going to help them when we get those really high temperatures. Okay, so that's sunflowers. Zinnias, I still have a few left of golden hour. Just a very few. And a few, maybe, I don't know, this packet feels kind of empty, of a little flower girl, and a few more of Alpenglow. So those are going in the ground, as well as the Mazurkaya zinnias. So these are all going in direct sown. And then I have 4 more packets here. They don't have pictures because these are from GeoSeed, but I have a cactus flower mix, and there are a ton of seeds in here. Probably 1,000 seeds in here. Obviously won't need that many. And we have Blue Point Wine, so a darker color for later in the season, and Blue Point Coral. So lots of zinnias, gonna go in all the holes. The row that I planted the Snapdragon seedlings in, the Rocket Bronze, most of them are gone. So I'm going to direct sow some zinnias in there. We'll just, plug the holes basically at this point. And what goes in and what stays and what comes up is what comes up. The reason I'm kind of relying on these 2 varieties is they direct sow very well. But also a lot of these seeds are older. And so I would like to order a new batch of seeds for next year, but I want to make sure I use up all the ones that I already have. So I will probably be putting 3 zinnia seeds in each hole because, again, like I said, these are older seeds, and that will at least guarantee some germination. Now, the ones that we direct sowed up in the raised bed that the tulips were in, most of those have germinated. So there's only a few spots that have holes, but they're still very, very small. So I'm hoping this new heat that we're getting will help because, in a raised bed, the soil is actually a little bit cooler than it is when it's in ground. In the wintertime. In the summer, it can be warmer. So I'm hoping that they will kind of get a boost with this new wave of temperatures. And there's also a number of holes in the places where I have direct sown zinnias, where, the zinnias that are there and have germinated are doing great, but then there are holes next to them where they didn't germinate. So I'm going to re-sow those holes. So that's the job for today. It's going to take quite a while. I am leaving space in one of these beds for millet. I have limelight millet that I have one section that's already going that I've been harvesting from, but I have a whole bunch. I have about 50 seedlings in the greenhouse. They're not ready yet. They're still too small, but when they are ready, I want to have bed space for them. So I'm going to leave that bed space open, but I probably will go ahead and mulch it, and I'll just pull the mulch aside when I pop the seedlings in. So I'm going to go get my kneeler and get started putting some flower seeds in the ground. This is a nice, relaxing way to spend the day. And later this week, not tomorrow, because tomorrow I have to go pick up all the vases and stuff from San Rafael, and that's like I said, it's 3.5 to 4 hours with traffic round trip. So I won't have much time to do any work out here tomorrow. But there's a gorgeous vulture riding an air current overhead. I wish I could get him. Oh, sorry, he just passed that way. So cool though. But on Thursday, I'm going to come out, hopefully bringing the kids. I need help hand weeding all the beds. I need help getting cardboard down. We need to get the wheelbarrow back out here now that we're done at home and move the rest of these wood chips onto pathways. I need to treat weeds with vinegar. And really importantly, I need to get the netting, flower netting, on these beds that are going to start getting tall. I'm lucking out so far with the few things that are growing. Haven't acted like they needed it yet, but I really should have put the netting down already. So in beds that I know are going to need it, we need to get that netting down. So that's later this week. Hopefully that will be a whole bunch of work done. Okay, I'm going to go grab my kneeler and get started sowing seeds. Those sweet peas are just loving their lives. This is kind of what I get every couple of days off of those plants. The key to sweet peas, if you want them to keep producing like that, is to harvest consistently, like every couple of days. Harvest, 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 because then they won't set seed as quick and you'll get lots and lots of flowers. But you got to clear the whole plant, take it all. All right, let's head home. We've got some seeds to start in the greenhouse this afternoon. Okay, so it is after lunch. We are in the greenhouse. I had to change my clothes because when I got home, I was just wet. All my clothes were wet just from sweating. And it is currently 102 Fahrenheit here in the greenhouse, which is almost 39 Celsius. So it's a bit toasty, but that's to be expected in a greenhouse. This is why my greenhouse is partially shaded, because in really hot places, if you had a greenhouse in direct sun, literally everything would die in it. So yes, my greenhouse is partially shaded for that reason. Okay, so you haven't been in here in a while. I just wanted to show you some things that I've got going on before we start seeds. There's not a lot to start, but I do have a few. So I have a tray up here of stuff that we started a couple weeks ago. There's celosia here, which is going to go out to the farm pretty soon. Okay, but then I also have foxglove, coreopsis, and echinacea, and those are, because they are perennials, they take a really long time to get to a good enough size to plant out. So they probably won't go out until, I don't know, August or September. They're just going to need a lot of time to really get sized up enough that they can survive the transplant, especially during the heat of the summer. Okay, we also still have all of our succulents. Well, not all of them, but the ones that are left. And there aren't that many. We just have these here, and some of them have been destroyed by the rats that are in the greenhouse. I have caught a number of them in traps. So yeah, every night I don't cover the succulents, but I do cover the tray that I just showed you and these guys here. So this is a tray of 50 green millet, limelight millet, and this gets covered every night with a dome so that it doesn't get eaten. The same with this tray, which is lettuces for the garden. This also gets covered every night. This is a tray of zinnias and basil, which is taking forever to grow. I seeded this, I don't know, like 5 weeks ago. But the zinnias that are here, I'm actually just going to plant here at home, since we already did all that direct sowing of zinnias today at the farm. So I also have in here, and I don't have to worry about these getting eaten because they usually, unless there's nothing else in the world for them to eat, they won't eat this, but my garlic is in here drying down. So I just have it here on the bottom shelf, and you know, some of these bulbs are a decent size. I don't know. There's a few but there's lots of them in here that are pretty small, but they're almost dry. Then we will cut off all the tops, cut off the roots, and they'll be ready for storage. Okay, so the seeds that I'm going to sow this afternoon, it's just 4 6-packs, not a lot, but all of the beans that I direct sowed out in the garden, I don't know, last week or the week before, they're gone. They got eaten. So I'm going to start some in 6-packs and try to grow them bigger and then put them out and cover them somehow with something more indestructible or like hard to break into. I just want some beans this year. I feel like that's not too much to ask. Every bean plant, every pepper plant. It's really frustrating. Okay, 4 beans. It's just 2 types. They're pole beans, Kentucky Wonder, and Blue Lake. Now again, these are pretty old seeds. Actually, this one's not. This one's packed for 2025, but this one was packed for 2022. So they should still be fine, but they're older seeds. Then I'm going to go ahead and start cream sausage bush tomatoes. These are determinate tomatoes, and they're 80 days from transplanting. And because it's hot now in the greenhouse, they will germinate quickly and start growing fast. Bush or determinate tomatoes stay a determined size. They don't get huge. This one, it doesn't say. But last year when I grew it, I say it got about 3 feet tall and maybe about 2 feet wide. It was very bushy, and they tend to put all of their fruit on at the same time. So you don't get a successive harvest throughout the season. But at this point in the season, it's better to start this so that by the end of the season, I have a nice, hopefully big harvest of these good guys. They are small, they're about this big, and they are like this creamy color. They're really nice. And then finally, I have a romaine called Sunland. This is a pelleted seed, so it'd be really easy to plant. But these guys I'm planting because they are hardier, less likely to bolt in our summer heat. So they are going to get planted in shady places in the garden once I can find some protected space out there. Speaking of protected space, so I think I am going to move forward with the plan to get cats. I told the kids we need to plan to build a really nice cat house out there that they can go into to get out of weather, to sleep at night or during the day, that has plenty of circulation in the daytime to stay cool, and enough insulation to keep them warm in the wintertime, because we can get down into the 20s in the winter, especially at night. So they're all, definitely big enough space for them to have food and water in there, plus beds, and for a little while, a litter box, because they got to stay in there for about 2 weeks. But I also want it elevated because that part of the garden is low. It's the lowest part of the property. So water, when we get a lot of rain, it runs down, and I don't want their house to get flooded. I want it to be nice and dry in there for them. And I think also we'll put a nice little slanted roof so that water runs off, and we can even collect that water if we want to. Now, to do that, we're going to have to move some beds around, sacrifice some garden space. I'm fine with that, because what I'm thinking is it's going to be a big investment, but I think I'm going to convert everything that's currently in ground in the vegetable garden to raised metal beds. It's much easier to defend those from the rodents. This time I will put a hardware cloth liner on the bottom before we fill them. And I can then do the hoops, and literally I use binder clips to tightly clip that netting or row cover over those beds, depending on the time of year, and they have to chew through it to get in there. Now, they do that eventually, but it really works to keep them out for quite a while. In fact, I had a wonderful carrot harvest this past year because of that system, and I just can't get it do that in the ground because they just burrow under. So yeah, so that's the plan. That'll be slowly happening. I'll probably buy the stuff, but the majority of the flip for the stuff that's in ground won't happen until October, probably when I do the bed flips for the early winter plantings, because over the winter in that garden, there's just not enough sun to really grow much. Carrots can hang out for a long time, so carrots and beets, once I get them in say September, we're still usually very hot then, so it's a little tougher, but they'll be okay throughout the winter without a ton of sun. But the rest of the garden is a little bit too short of hours of sun to really grow a lot. Mustard, however, I am going to cover that garden with mustard. It's a great cover crop, and nobody likes to eat it, so that will be what we do. Okay, so I already have my seed trays all set up. I've got them full of soil. I have watered it deeply so that the soil is nice and wet. I'm gonna go ahead and pop these seeds in and sit them up on the rack, and then we'll be done for the day. quick and easy. So I'm looking forward to getting those out. You might have noticed that I put a lot of lettuce seeds in each cell, and that is because I like them to come out thick, and then I can always pull apart the seedlings and plant them out that way. It's just space saving at this point. So that's gonna be it for me today. You know I keep talking about how much everything is getting eaten in the garden, and it's pretty bad. It's even worse than last year, but I am catching them. In fact, yesterday I caught 4 in, I don't have one in here, in these great, the black tube ones that are just easy to press down. Let me find one. They're super effective. So it looks like this. There's the tunnel that they go through. There's a little switch plate in there that they step on. It's set right now, but when they step on it, this is a snap trap and it catches them. Super easy. They're not even baited. I catch them constantly in those without any bait. The bait cup is on the bottom. You just twist it out. So it's really easy. You don't have to get your hands on anything, and you can just dump it out without touching the animal, which is nice because of disease. Anyway, yesterday I caught 4 in the front garden in those traps, and one of them was literally the biggest rat I have ever seen in my life. I had a rat as a pet in college. His name was Iggy, and he was huge. The body was like this long. It was one of those black and white rats, and then he had a long tail. Super friendly and affectionate. Anyway, this rat was bigger than Iggy and fat. Super fat. The fur was very healthy. I mean, just a healthy animal. So clearly they are eating well in my garden. I just would prefer them to eat somewhere else. So anyway, that's gonna be it for me today. Thank you guys for hanging out. Tomorrow is Wednesday. We're gonna do a very early morning garden tour here when the sun is in a better, I'm waving. Aiden is holding up Raven in the baby mode, and she's looking out the window. Anyway, we are going to do an early morning garden tour because it will be nice and cool, but also the sun will, the light is better because the direct sun just makes it hard to see things in the camera for you guys. So then the rest of the day I'll be on the road. But I'm looking forward to that because even though lots of stuff has gone away, there's also lots of pretty stuff to look at. So I'm excited to share that with you. All right, thanks so much for hanging out. I hope you have a wonderful time in your garden, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.